This Kronos video is for employees who clock in and out at Kronos clocks, except for bus drivers, transportation aides, and transportation childcare attendants. They have a separate training video. For printable step-by-step directions, see the Employee Kronos Guide available on the Training tab of your Kronos dashboard. There are a number of training topics in this video. The start times of the video clips of the different topics are listed for your reference. These topics include punching, clocking, in and out at Kronos clocks, how to log into Kronos, how to download the Kronos app, navigating your Kronos dashboard and timesheet, how to request time off, how to cancel a time off request, how to modify a time off request, how to report a missed punch, how to request an add time entry. This request is to be used for a day you worked at a CCS site but had 0 punches. How to report remote work. How to request a lunch break cancellation. How to request the conversion of overtime to comp time. How to request the conversion of time worked on a calamity day to comp time 1.0. How to check your timesheet near the end of each pay period. The end of this video shows you how to use Kronos Clock to submit time off requests and timesheet change requests.
To punch in or out, hold your employee badge flat against the part of the Kronos clock that has the employee badge icon. If your punch is successful, the Kronos clock will make a sound and the Kronos clock screen will turn green with the message accepted, as you just saw. When punching in or out, ensure that no other cards are close to your employee badge. For example, notice the error I get when I try to punch in holding my old building access card and employee badge together. If your punch is not accepted, you'll either receive the rejected error message as we just saw, or you won't receive any message. For example, notice what happens when I try to punch in using the old style employee badge with the slogan, "Step up and make it happen," on the back of the card. Nothing happens. This is because the old style employee badges don't have the passive RFID within them, so there's no way to communicate with the clock.
If your badge is consistently not registering successful punches at Kronos clocks, email kronos@k12.oh.us and note each of the 3 items below. Please also note for new hires, please wait a week after hire date before emailing. Note your employee ID number, the 6-digit number on the back of your employee badge, which starts with a 2, and whether you're receiving a red error message on the Kronos clock when trying to clock in or out. A few other reminders regarding punching in or out. Never clock in or out for another person, also known as buddy punching. Each district clock accepts punches from all district employees. However, only punch at locations where you have been directed or permitted by your supervisor to work, receive professional development, attend a meeting, or perform some other work-related task. Avoid failing to clock in or out multiple times within a short time frame. And of course, always submit truthful and accurate Kronos requests, including any missed punch requests. Never submit requests with false information.
You can log into Kronos using a variety of devices, including your smartphone, tablet, desktop computer, or a laptop. You can log on to Kronos on any of these devices by using an internet browser, such as Apple Safari, Google Chrome, or Microsoft Edge. Additionally, if you have a smartphone or tablet, you also have the option of downloading a UKG-ready app. We'll talk about how to do that a little bit later on. We'll first look at how to log into Kronos using a web browser, in this case, Apple Safari. Type in the web address for Columbus City Schools, ccsoh.us. Click the menu, Staff, and under Staff Quick Links, click Kronos. Here you'll be prompted to enter your username and password. Enter the username and password that you use to log into your email. Click Sign In. it will take you to your last tab that you used. For example, if you last used the Training tab, it will default to the Training tab. To switch between tabs, click the down arrow next to Training or Manager Self-Service or My Self-Service, as the case may be, and then select the tab you wish to use. Most of the time when you try to log into Kronos, you'll come to this login screen. It has Columbus City Schools and a logo against a white background. Sometimes when you attempt to log into Kronos, you'll see a login screen like this, instead of the one we saw earlier that had the Columbus City Schools logo against a white background. Another way that this login might look is shown here, where it just says sign in. It could be against a black background or a white background where it has sign in, and then it says requires a username and password. You can still log in this way, and sometimes you may have to try it a couple of times before it will successfully allow you to log in. The document on the screen is a summary of the steps we've discussed for how to log into Kronos. If you'd like, you can pause this screen at your convenience and use it as a quick reference guide for how to log into Kronos. Another way to use Kronos on your phone, and a very handy way at that, is to use the Kronos app. To do so, go to the App Store. Under Search, type in the name for this Kronos application. In this case, Kronos is called UKG. As an FYI, Kronos was purchased a little over a year and a half ago, and the name for the parent company is now UKG. So we'll type in UKG ready, click search. Not downloaded it before, it may have a Get right there to click on or some other way to say that you want that app. So go ahead and click that. In this case, because I've used it before, it's in the cloud. It's a free application. Click open. And you won't be able to see this on the screen. A pop-up message will come up asking whether the UKG app can use your location. It will ask allow once, allow while using app, don't allow. Click don't allow. Under select your region, select North America. Under company short name, enter 607-9644 and then click continue. Here you'll arrive at the login. You'll log in as you did earlier when you used the web browser. Now it asks, UKG Ready would like to send you notifications. You can click Don't Allow or Allow. If you click Allow, one handy feature of this is it will send you notifications related to your timesheets and time off approvals. So that can be handy, but if you find that annoying, you can simply click Don't Allow. And if you change your mind, you can go into settings later and toggle either way. In this case, I'll click Allow. So it has the same look and feel as using a web browser, but with the advantage of the notifications and a few other features that are found on the app. Now, if you haven't used the app for a little while and you try to log in, sometimes you'll be presented with a sign out, you have successfully signed out page. Near the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a tiny home link. If you click that home link, it takes you back to the menu for Columbus City Schools. And there you just go through the process of signing in. And by signing in here, you're actually signing into the app. So when you successfully enter your username and password, you'll be logged back into your app. One other thing to be mindful of when you're downloading the app is if you go to the App Store and you type in UKG Ready, you download the app, and then you seek to open it, you may be presented with this white screen and you're not able to go past it. This is sometimes due to restrictions that are in the network for the Wi-Fi that you're attached to. So if that's the case, scroll out and remove the app, and then download it using a Wi-Fi network that doesn't have those restrictions. Or if you choose to, you can go to your settings, turn off Wi-Fi, and use cell data in order to download.
When you log into Kronos, you'll arrive at the Home tab. On your Home tab is a link to your timesheet under View My Timesheet, a link to request time off under My Time Off, and your current accrual balances. If you click the Training tab, you'll see links to videos and how-to guides for your Kronos functions. Click the Home tab to go back to the main dashboard. To open your timesheet for the current pay period, click View My Timesheet. To see your timesheet for the previous pay period, click the left-facing arrow next to the date. To go back to the current pay period, click the right-facing arrow next to the date. In this example, though, we'll click the left-facing arrow to go back to the previous pay period. Note the different exceptions on this timesheet. There is a missed day exception on Wednesday, April 17th. There are two possible causes for a missed day exception. One, the employee worked that day, but neither clocked in or out. In such a case, the employee would need to submit a change request for an add time entry. The second possible cause for a missed day exception is that the employee was absent. For that, an employee would need to submit a time off request to report the absence. The employee can do so by clicking the three dots, clicking Request Time Off, or going to the main screen by clicking the UKG logo, scrolling down and clicking My Time Off. To go back, you can click the UKG logo and then click View My Timesheet. In this example, we're going back to the previous pay period to look at it further. Another possible exception you'll see is the missed punch exception, which we see here for Friday, April 19th. A missed punch exception occurs when there is an odd number of punches for a day. To report a missed punch in, submit a change request or an add punch in. To report a missed punch out, submit a change request or an add punch out. In this timesheet, we also see the schedule listed for each workday, such as under Monday, April 15th. A schedule will always show your standard hours per day. In this case, 8 hours. It may also include start and end times. In this case, 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. A lunch deduction length may also be listed. In this case, the 30L means a 30-minute unpaid lunch break. The lunch break length is also noted in the lunch break column. If a lunch break is canceled for a particular day, the lunch break length will be 0. To print your time card, click the three dots next to Change Request and select Print. This will open different selections. To go ahead and print, click Print again, and then one more time. Click the Summary by Day tab to see hours for the timesheet pay period summarized by pay type and/or time off type. To go back to the home screen from any screen, click the UKG logo. If you are a Kronos user who uses Red Rover to report your absences, then please note the following information. Time off reported in Red Rover automatically comes over into your Kronos timesheet. Therefore, if you used Red Rover to report an absence, do not enter a time off request in Kronos for that same absence. If an absence you reported in Red Rover did not come over into your Kronos timesheet, or came over with an incorrect number of hours, notify your timekeeper of the issue. In such cases, the timekeeper can add or correct your Kronos absence entry based on what you actually entered in Red Rover. However, if you normally use Red Rover to report your absences, but were unable to report a particular absence in Red Rover, then use Kronos to report the absence. With that in mind, let's consider how to request time off in Kronos. Before requesting time off, scroll down the home screen to the My Accrual Balances section. Check to see that you have a sufficient accrual balance to cover your time off request. After checking your balances, scroll back up to the My Schedule, My Time Off section and click My Time Off. Click the day on the calendar you want to request time off for. In this example, April 22nd. If you wish to select multiple days, select the first day of the request and select the last day of the request. This will select all the days in that range. If you select multiple days, please keep in mind that the dates must be consecutive days within the same week. Your request shouldn't include a day on a weekend, a holiday, a non-scheduled day, or a day with any time entry. However, in our example here, a single date, April 22nd, is selected. Click the icon in the Time Off Type field and select the time off type you wish to use. Submit FMLA-related time off requests in Kronos only if you have received HR approval for your FMLA leave request. Please also note that unpaid time off codes and some less commonly used paid time off codes are not available for selection here using Kronos self-service. If you need to request unpaid time off, such as unpaid FMLA if you qualify for FMLA, or need to request a paid time off type that's not listed in Kronos self-service, send a written request to your approver by email or in paper. Approved requests for such time off will be added to Kronos by your timekeeper or approver. Click the button next to the leave type you wish to use. In this case, it's personal illness. After you make the selection, the leave type will appear in the time off type box. Then click Start Request. After you click Start Request, a Request Time Off box will pop up. Click in the Request Type box and select one of the following options. If you select full day, the time off taken will equal the hours in your standard workday. A minute ago, we discussed how to select multiple days on the calendar. If you make the selection here, you can also choose multiple days with the same rules that apply. And finally, with partial day bulk, you can enter the number of hours you wish to take off for a selected day, and it can be less than your standard hours per day. Now, regarding the partial day bulk selection, please keep in mind that the number of hours you wish to take off, plus any combination of other time you worked on that day or other time off you requested for that day, shouldn't exceed the hours in your standard workday. Also, please note that if you select full day or partial day, the date requested off cannot be a date on a weekend, a holiday, or a non-scheduled day. So in this example, we select full day. When you select the request type, the date field appears. The date you selected on the calendar will default in. If you want to change your selection, click the calendar icon and select a date. In this example, though, the date is not changed. Sometimes people wish to attach documentation, such as a doctor's excuse, to support their time off request. If you wish to attach a document to your time off request, click the paperclip icon, then click Choose. Select a file to upload. After selecting the file, click Upload. Now click Close. You can also add a comment if you wish. After reviewing your time off request for accuracy, click Submit Request. Your time off request will be sent to your Kronos timesheet approver for approval, and your Kronos timekeeper will be copied on your request. After you make the time off request, but before the request is approved, the date on the calendar requested off will have a dotted line around the request. When your Kronos timesheet approver approves your time off request, you'll receive an email notifying you. After you log into Kronos, you'll also see that in your time off calendar that the dotted line around the request is now changed to a solid block. Finally, if you log into your timesheet and look at the selected day, you'll see that the time off has been successfully added. Kronos allows you to submit time off requests, including modifications, for dates within the current or future pay periods, as well as dates in the most recent past pay period if your timesheet hasn't yet been approved. Timesheets are generally approved on the Monday following the end of a pay period, and your timesheet hasn't yet been locked. Timesheets for each pay period are locked on the Wednesday following the end of a pay period. So as a general rule, submit time off requests for a past absence within 3 days of the absence or by the last day of the pay period, whichever is earlier. On your home screen, scroll to the My Schedule, My Time Off section and click My Time Off. An unapproved time off request has a dotted line around it. You can delete an unapproved time off request by clicking on the request and then clicking Delete. Click Delete again, and then click OK. The request is deleted. There are a couple of things to keep in mind about requesting the cancellation of approved time off requests. So the example that we just did was an unapproved request. So for approved time off requests, you can only request the cancellation of time off requests you've made. You can't cancel time off entered for you by a timekeeper or approver. For example, the timekeeper entered LWAP for April 23rd. The employee has no option to delete the LWAP entry. You can cancel time off requests made for the current or future pay periods. You may also cancel time off requests for the most recent past pay period if your timesheet hasn't yet been approved or the pay period locked, whichever occurs first. Timesheets are usually approved on the Monday following the end of a pay period. An approved time off request does not have a dotted line around it. Rather, it's a solid color, like the example shown here for April 17th. You can't directly delete an approved time off request. However, you can request the time off request to be canceled. To do so, click the request and then click Delete. Enter a brief reason for the request, and then click Request. Your time off request will be sent to your Kronos timesheet approver for approval. When your Kronos timesheet approver approves your time off request, you'll receive an email noting such. When you log back into Kronos and look at your My Time Off calendar, you'll see that the time off has been successfully removed. In this case, there is no time off request listed for April 17th. To modify an unapproved time off request, scroll to the My Schedule, My Time Off section of Kronos and click My Time Off. An unapproved time off request has a dotted line around it. Click on the unapproved time off request on the calendar and then click Modify. A Modify Time Off box will then pop up. Modifications must follow the same guidelines as time off requests. You can modify the time off request in one or more of the following ways: time off type, request type, and date. To change time off type, click the icon and then select the appropriate time off type. In this example, time off type is changed from personal illness to personal leave. To change request type, click the down arrow in the request type box and make a selection. Please note that if your original request type selection was multiple days, you cannot here modify the entry to full day or partial day. Rather, you must delete the request and then enter a new time off request. In this example, the request type is changed from full day to partial day. If you change from full day to partial day, the total hours box will become visible. You can then change the number of hours you requested. In this example, the total hours is changed from 8 to 4 hours. After making your changes, click Modify Request. The request modifies the original time off request. When your modified time off request is approved, you'll receive an email noting the approval, and a modified time off entry will be added to your timesheet. To modify an approved time off request, log into Kronos and click View My Timesheet. The timesheet for the current pay period will open. To request a modification to an approved time off request, you must have open the Kronos timesheet, which contains the date of the time off request. If necessary, you can use the left-facing arrow to go to the past pay period, or the right-facing arrow to go to a future pay period if your time off request is in one of those pay periods. In this example, the time off request is within the current pay period. Click Change Request, click the down arrow below Change Type and select Modify Time Off. Click the date of the time off request, then select the time off by clicking the right-facing arrow next to the record. Modifications must follow the same guidelines as time off requests. An approved time off request can be modified in one or both of the following ways: time off type, or the number of hours requested for a particular day. You can't request the modification of the date of an approved time off request. To change the date of an approved time off request, you must request the cancellation of the time off request and then submit a new time off request. To change the time off type, click the icon in the time off field and then select a different time off type. In this example, the time off type is changed from personal illness to personal leave. To change the total time requested for the date, delete the amount of time listed and enter the revised time off amount requested. In this example, the total time requested off for the day is changed from 8 to 4. Do not enter time in the from or to areas. Leave those blank. Enter a brief comment explaining the request, and then click Submit Changes. When your timesheet request is approved, you'll receive an email noting the approval. You can then log into Kronos, click View My Timesheet, and verify that the time off entry has been modified, as it has in this example. Sometimes an employee may work on a particular day, but fail both to punch in and out. For example, on Wednesday, May 1st, the employee worked but didn't clock in or out, triggering a missed day exception. For directions on how to report your time when you work on a particular day but have no punches listed, such as here, see the video clip How to Add a Time Entry. However, in this video clip, I'll show you a couple ways to report a missed punch. In the context of this video, a missed punch occurs when an employee misses a single punch for a particular day. A missed punch for a prior day will trigger a missed punch flag, such as what we see here for April 29th and also for April 30th. To report a missed punch, first log into Kronos, then click View My Timesheet. We'll first consider the example of reporting a missed punch out, in this case for April 29th. Click Change Request, click the down arrow under Change Type, and then click Add Punch Out. Click the calendar icon under Choose Date. In this case, I need to click the left-facing arrow next to the month and year to go back to the prior month, and then click the date for which you want to report the missing punch, in this case, April 29th. In the To area, enter the punch out. Click the AM once to change it to PM, then enter a brief comment to explain the need for the request. Then click Submit Changes. When the approver approves the request, the employee will receive an email noting the approval. The employee can then log into Kronos and click View My Timesheet and verify that the punch has been added. In this case, the punch out for April 29th has been successfully added. We'll next consider the example of reporting a missed punch in this case for April 30th. Click Change Request, then click the down arrow under Change Type and select Add Punch In. Click the calendar icon under Choose Date. In this case, I need to click the left-facing arrow next to the month and year to go back to the prior month, and then click the date for which you want to report the missed punch in this case, April 30th. In the From area, enter the time you started work for the day. Then enter a brief comment to explain the need for the request, and click Submit Changes. When the approver approves the request, the employee will receive an email noting the approval. The employee can then log into Kronos, click View My Timesheet, and verify that the punch-in has been added. In this case, the punch-in for April 30th has been successfully added. There is an alternative method to reporting missed punches. If you have any correctable missed punch exceptions, they will be listed on your Kronos home screen under the header Timesheet Errors, as shown here. To report the missing punches, click the hyperlinked message noting the number of missing punches, in this case, one missing punch. An Edit Current Timesheet box will open. To report a missed punch, enter the time in the empty From or To boxes. In this case, it's a missed punch in, so I'm noting the time I started work in the From box. A comment is required for each missed punch reported. Then click Submit. When the approver approves the request, the employee will receive an email noting the approval. The employee can then log into Kronos and verify that the missed punch has been added. For example, they won't see any timesheet errors for a missing punch, assuming they don't have any other missing punches that they need to report. Also, if they click View My Timesheet, they'll see that the missed punch has been successfully added to their timesheet. Kronos doesn't permit the submission of most types of timesheet change requests, such as for an add punch in or an add punch out, for future dates, even for a future date within the current pay period. Kronos allows you to submit such timesheet change requests for the current date and past dates within the current pay period, as well as dates in the most recent past pay period if that timesheet hasn't yet been approved. Timesheets are generally approved on the Monday following the end of a pay period, and if that timesheet hasn't yet been locked, timesheets for each pay period are locked on the Wednesday following the end of a pay period. As a general rule, submit timesheet change requests within 3 days of the occurrence or by the last day of the pay period, whichever is earlier. To report time for a day you worked at a CCS site but have 0 punches, log into Kronos and click View My Timesheet. In this example, we see a missed day for Tuesday, April 9th. There's no punch in and no punch out. To report the punch in and punch out for that day, click Change Request. Under Change Type, click the down arrow and select Add Time Entry. Under Choose Date, click the calendar icon and select the date for the missed punches, in this case, April 9th. Under the From area, enter the time you started work, and under the To area, enter the time you ended your workday. To change AM to PM, click AM once. Under Comment, enter a brief comment explaining the reason for the request. Then click Submit Changes. When your change request is approved, you'll receive an email noting that approval. After receiving that email noting the approval, you can log into your Kronos, click View My Timesheet, and scroll down to the day for which you made the request. In this example, we see that the punch in and punch out have been added. To report remote hours worked, log into Kronos. At the main screen, click View My Timesheet. It will default to the current pay period. If you need to go back to a previous pay period, click the back arrow. In this example, the request is for the current pay period, and this is what most frequently will occur. Please keep in mind you can't make a request for a previous pay period which has already been approved or has been locked for approval. Click Change Request. Under Change Type, click the down arrow, select Add Time Entry. Choose the date by clicking the calendar icon. You can select any date within the selected pay period. So in this example, we'll select April 8th. Note the start and end time for the day. For the out punch, click AM once to change it to PM. To note remote work, click the Expand button. Under Activity, click the down arrow, click Browse, choose Remote Hours. Enter a brief comment, and then click Submit Changes. So after your manager approves your request, you'll receive an email noting that approval. When you log back into your timesheet and scroll down to the day that has the requested entry, you'll see the request has populated into your timesheet along with remote hours. To cancel a lunch deduction, log into Kronos and click View My Timesheet.
In this example, the employee worked through lunch on Wednesday, October 5th. We can see that they worked from 7:30 to 3:30. Their normal exit time is 4:30. They normally have a 60-minute lunch, and therefore they have a calculated total of 7 work hours for that day. However, they had already spoken to their principal and noted that they needed to work through lunch, and the principal agreed. So to make a request for a lunch deduction cancellation, click Change Request, modify Cost Center under Change Type, and then click Expand All. Under Expand All, select the day that you want to cancel the lunch deduction. In this case, it's Wednesday, October 5th. Click the right-facing arrow. Under Lunch Break, click the down arrow, click Browse, and then click 0. This will cancel out your lunch deduction. Then note the reason for the lunch deduction cancellation request. So when you make a lunch deduction cancellation request, it's sent off to your approver. They receive an email notifying them that a request has been made. When they approve that, you also receive an email notifying you that your request has been approved. To see the effect on your timesheet, after you log into Kronos, click My Timesheet. And here we look at Wednesday, October 5th. We still have the same start and stop times because those haven't changed. But here the lunch break has changed from 60 to 0, giving you a total of 8 work hours for the day. And here under Notes, if you click that, you see the note that was made for the request.
To request a conversion of overtime to comp time, log into Kronos and then click View My Timesheet.
Please note that you can only convert overtime to comp time on days which have this yellow overtime flag. You cannot convert overtime to comp time on any other days. For example, I worked my normal hours of 8 hours on Friday, March 4th. I actually worked over my scheduled hours per day on Tuesday, March 1st. I worked 10 hours instead of 8. But that wasn't when I accrued overtime. I accrued overtime when I crossed 40 hours for the week, and that happened on Friday, March 4th. So Kronos makes calculations, and it will correctly show when you have accrued overtime. And then, and only then, will this overtime flag appear. So to keep it simple, you can only convert overtime to comp time on days which have this overtime flag. So to make that conversion request, I click Change Request, select Modify Cost Center, expand all, and then once again, I select the day that has that yellow overtime flag. And under Activity, I click Browse and convert overtime to comp 1.5. A comment is required. It can be extremely brief, then click Submit Changes. Now, after you have received an email noting that the approver has approved your request to convert overtime to comp time, once you come to your timesheet, you'll see that the convert overtime to comp 1.5 is under activity, which is as you requested. When you go to the summary by day area, you'll see that the amount of time that you worked over that week has been converted to comp 1.5. So those 2 hours times 1.5, that is 3 hours, will be added to your comp time balance. One other thing to note with converting overtime to comp time is before making that request, you should check your comp time balance. You never want to request conversion of overtime to comp time if it would result in you going over your balance limits.
To request a conversion of time worked on a calamity day to comp 1.0, log into Kronos and click View My Timesheet. Click Change Request. Click the down arrow under Change Type and select Modify Cost Center. Select the date you worked on the calamity day. In this case, it's Wednesday, May 1st. Select the time entry, not the time off entry for that day. You can tell it's a time entry because it has a start and end time. Also, the time entry doesn't have time off listed or calamity pay listed. So in this case, I click the right arrow for the time entry showing 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. as the work time. Click the down arrow under Activity and select Browse. Then select Convert Calamity to Comp 1.0. Enter a very brief comment noting the reason for the request. Then click Submit Changes. You'll receive an email when your approver approves your request. After receiving that email, to confirm that the comp time conversion has occurred, log back into Kronos and click View My Timesheet. In this example, note the Convert Calamity to Comp 1.0 is now listed under the Activity column for the time worked on the calamity day. Also, click on the Summary by Day tab. In this example, note the hours listed in the Comp 1.0 category, which confirms that the conversion has successfully occurred. Near the end of each pay period, check your timesheet for exceptions and check your weekly totals. To do so, log into Kronos and click View My Timesheet. First and most importantly, scroll down your timesheet and look for any missed punch or missed day exceptions on your timesheet. Let's first look at how to address a missed punch exception. If the missed punch exception is due to a missed punch in, such as what we see here for Tuesday, May 7th, submit a timesheet change request for an add punch in. For directions on how to do that, see the video clip How to Report a Missed Punch. If the missed punch exception is due to a missed punch out, such as the example here on Monday, May 6th, submit a timesheet change request for an add punch out. For directions on how to do that, see the video clip on how to report a missed punch. Of course, if you've already submitted a timesheet change request for an add punch in or an add punch out for a missing punch exception, there is no further action you need to take in regards to that exception. We'll now look at how to address a missed day exception. We see an example of a missed day exception here on Wednesday, May 8th. If a missed day exception occurred because you worked that day but neither clocked in or out, submit a timesheet change request for an add time entry. For directions on how to do that, see the video clip on how to request an add time entry. However, if a missed day exception occurred because you were absent that day, submit a time off request. See the video clip on how to do that. If you've already submitted a time off request or a timesheet change request for an add time entry that would clear a missed day exception, there is no further action you need to take in regards to that exception. In addition to checking for exceptions and taking any necessary action to address those, check the weekly totals on your timesheet. To do so, while in your timesheet view, click the Summary by Day tab. Check that the weekly count totals for completed weeks are not less than your standard hours per day multiplied by 5. That is your standard hours per week. For example, if you're an 8-hour-a-day employee, your standard hours per week are 40. If you're a 6-hour-a-day employee, your standard hours per week are 30. If you've already submitted requests which address any shortages, such as requests for a missed punch in or add time entry or time off requests, and you're just waiting for those approvals to occur, then your timesheet check is complete. If not, then submit the appropriate requests to cover the shortages. For example, a 40-hour-a-week employee is reviewing her timesheet on Thursday, May 9th. She sees that the amount in the calc total column for the first week is 36 hours, which is 4 hours short of her scheduled hours per week. That shortage occurred here on Wednesday, May 1st. She remembers that that's the day she had requested from her manager to use personal leave, and her manager had said okay. She also remembers, though, that she hasn't yet submitted a time off request for those 4 hours. So to address the 4-hour shortfall, she submits a time off request to use personal leave for 4 hours for the May 1st date. So that would address the first week. She hasn't yet completed working the second week. She submitted missed punch and add time entry requests, which will cover Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And as long as she works and or uses time off totaling 8 hours each for Thursday, May 9th and Friday, May 10th, she will have no shortfall for the second week. So that's an example of how an employee can check their timesheet near the end of a pay period. To use the Kronos clock to request time off, click Request Time Off, then tap your badge. You can scroll down to select the type of time off you want to use by touching the screen and then scrolling up. Ensure you don't select just the first sick leave that shows up, because the first one is sick leave, death, and family, unless, of course, that is the cause for your time off request. But in this case, we'll say it's sick leave, personal illness. I click select, and then I click submit again to verify. And I have the selection of full day, partial day, or multiple days. Full day would be for obviously the standard hours per day that you work. Partial day, you can select less than the standard hours per day. And in multiple days, you can select multiple consecutive days during a week span. In this case, I'll select partial day bulk and then click select. I click submit to verify, and then enter the date by tapping the calendar icon, selecting the date, entering the number of hours, then tapping enter. And here I can also enter a comment, and then click enter, and finally submit. And it creates the time off request. When your time off request has been approved, you'll receive an email noting such. You can then log back into Kronos and verify that the time off record has been added. To use the Kronos clock to make a timesheet change request, tap Timesheet Change Request, tap your badge, and then you can select the different types of timesheet change requests which are available. In this case, we'll say Add Punch In, click Select, click Submit to verify, tap the calendar icon to pick a date. In this case, we'll say the 15th, and enter the punch-in time. In this case, we'll say 8 o'clock. Note a comment, click enter, verify what you've noted, and then click submit. When your timesheet change request is approved, you'll receive an email noting that approval. Then you can log into Kronos and verify that the punch-in or out or the timesheet change request has been added.
For help with Kronos login issues, contact the IT Help Desk at extension 8425. For help with using Kronos, contact your timekeeper or approver. If they need assistance helping you, they can reach out to the Kronos group. And finally, there is information on what to do if your badge is consistently not registering successful punches at Kronos clocks. This information was shared earlier in this video and is shared here as another reminder.